I'm Zach with FTx POS. Today we're going to walk through our entire suite of retail products built for brick and mortar retail stores. So FTx POS is actually owned by a chain of 60 plus retail stores in the New York and Pennsylvania area. So we fight the same fights you do, we live in the same trenches you do. We know what it takes to run a successful retail operation. So the entire life suite of them starts with the POS, goes to the handheld, all the way up to the back office for your inventory and price book control. So right now we're going to look at messages. Messages allow you to send a message to a store or an employee at a store without using email. What this does is reduces any sort of threat you have on your network by not exposing your cashiers to email. So once you're logged into the control center, messages live under point of sale, dashboard messages. So once here, I see a list of all the messages I have assigned to me. And from there, I can open a message. As you can see, the messages are threaded, so you can see all the responses to it. So to create a message, I simply add new, enter a subject and a body just like you would with email. I can add an attachment if I like. And then I would choose either a location or a specific employee to send it to, and then send it. The message is going to show up at the store level and actually the register. They can reply from there, they can reply from the handheld, view it on the handheld, so a lot of flexibility in that front. So what we're looking at now is the heart and soul of your operation, the price book. So the price book is where you can manage individual items. You're going to set the cost, set the price, handle the departments, the categorization, all that kind of fun stuff. So the first thing we're going to see when we're in the price book is going to be just simply a list of products. From here, I can use various filters to find the product I'm looking for. I could add a new product. So let's look at a pack of cigarettes. So once we've found our item, as you can see on the detail, we have all the attributes of the item, the UPC code, the description, the categorization, the departments. Each one of these is very important. In our world, the categories are hierarchy based. What that means is you have a parent, you have a child, you could even have a grandchild, a great-grandchild, etc., etc. Using those hierarchical categories, we can filter and sort for things like reports, price changes, adding them to discounts, all that kind of wonderful stuff. The department is very important to us because the department holds the attributes that control taxing, age verification, sales restrictions. In the FTx world, we also have tags, and tags allow you to assign unlimited attributes to an item. So this may be things that don't necessarily fit into the category, such as a size, a color, things of that nature. So those are assigned here. So to create a new item, I would simply use add new item. And then from here, I can choose all the attributes of the item. Now we also have templates, and what that allows you to do is to basically create a single item and say, hey, I'm going to add a lot of items like this later, so I want them all to share the same attribute set. So you can create a template from that item, and then whenever you're creating subsequent items, you can refer back to that template. Down below, we have our pricing. So in our world, we use price book zones to allow you to have multiple cost or price at different stores. So it's a one-to-one relationship. Each store is going to only live in one zone. So as you can see here, the chain we're looking at has 3 zones. While 2 of the zones share a cost and price, the third zone has a different cost and price. So whenever I'm making a change, I can make it for a single zone or to multiple zones. Other attributes on the right side are going to be the parent-child relationship. So how we handle parent and children are you define the parent and you define the child and the link quantity. So here we're looking at a cigarette, and its parent is going to be with a link quantity of 10. So what that means is whenever I sell 10 packs, that equates to 1 carton. So we also have a breakdown system. So whenever the quantity of the child goes to negative, we are going to reduce the cartons by 1, add in 10 packs. So for instance, if inventory was 2 cartons and 0 packs, and I sell a pack of cigarettes, what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 carton out of inventory, add in 10 packs. So your new inventory would be 1 carton, 9 packs. From the right side here, we can also look at various tools. You can see any vendor parts assigned to the item. You can manage the discount, see the change history on it. One of my favorites is the item analysis. So within item analysis, I can choose a store and see everything that's happened during this date range about the store. So you can see any invoices that have come in, any cycle counts done on this item, any sales, any adjustments made. So this is the first tool we use in support to help you determine what's going on with an item. A lot of times if you're doing an inventory count and the count may be off, what we'll do is we'll pop in this screen and say, hey, look, you haven't received an invoice on this item in the past 2 weeks. Someone probably forgot to apply an invoice. Or, hey, did you notice the last time you did a cycle count, this item wasn't counted? It was probably hidden in the back somewhere, and now it's showing back up. So this is a great tool to, at a glance, see all the data for an item without running 4, 5, 6 reports. Also from this screen, I can manage my vendor parts. So what a vendor part is basically the item as the wholesaler calls it. So in this case, our wholesaler HLA uses item number 1025301. And whenever I receive that, I get N1. So if you're ordering items like, I don't know, a box of candy bars, but you never sell the candy bars by the box, what you can do is create a vendor part for that and say that the box is actually worth 24 units, so that whenever you receive one of those parts, it explodes into 24 of the individuals. So that allows you to not have to put the box into inventory as a separate UPC into the parent-child relationship between the two of those, and only have the individual with the vendor part of 24 on there. Also on the right side, you can look at transfer analysis, and we'll look at this a little later in inventory, but at a glance, what it allows you to do is to quickly see what other stores' quantity and sales look like for this item to help suggest which store you should transfer this to. Lastly, we just have some quick statistics showing you, hey, yesterday, how were sales? What's my sales week to date, month to date, year to date, etc., etc. So all this is great for looking at a single item, but usually when you're dealing with price changes, you're having to change quite a few items at a time. So for that, we built out mass updates. So within mass updates, our default filter is going to be the hierarchical categories we talked about earlier. So here you can filter in and drill down from parent to child to grandchild, and the resulting items, you can make a cost or price change here. So a common change would be when Altadis comes out and say, hey, all of our products are going up by 30% next month. What you can do is find those items, quickly choose them, and then under actions, you can do just about anything. But in our case, we want to make a price change. We could say, hey, add 30% to the price. And as you can see right here, it's just going to flat out add the 30%. However, now our price may not be like we want it to. What we can do is say, hey, add the 30%, but I want you to round to nines. So that ensures it always has that psychological pricing of ending with a 9. As you can see, we can also round to 5s. Here, when I preview it, it shows the changes. It's going to show me my old margin, old price, new price. And then as we mentioned earlier, you can affect multiple zones all from right here. So I can choose which zones to affect by this change. Once you're happy with it, you would simply apply the price change. Changes can also be scheduled. So a lot of times you'll know about the price change ahead of time. So you can say, hey, it's Tuesday, but this price change is going to take effect Monday. I don't want to have to work on Sunday, so I can go ahead and queue that change up. So the keyword there being queue. So I would enable my queue here. And once the queue is enabled, all changes I make, I have the ability to either apply them now or add them to a schedule. So we'll look and we'll make that same change. So we're going to do 30% rounded to 9s. We're going to preview it. And then we're going to apply it. However, instead of applying it, it actually just sends it over to the queue. And if you'll notice now on the top, I have a little queue. I can view that queue, I can apply that queue, but most importantly, I can schedule that queue. So I could schedule that queue to say, hey, apply this in 3 days, in 5 days, in 7 days, etc., by using the schedule option. So mass updates isn't just for price and cost changes. So I recommend using mass updates to add items to discounts, add items to buy downs, add tags, add vendor parts. So from here, I filtered in and I have a list of beverages. I want to assign all these beverages to a discount. So I can choose my action for these items. And if you'll notice, outside of pricing, I also have things like buy downs, discounts, commissions, vendor parts, all that kind of fun stuff. So in our case, we're going to add them to a discount. So we can choose discounts. We can choose the discount we want to apply them to, and then apply them. So that's very helpful when the manufacturer does buy two, get one free, or if you're doing a lot of Sather's candy, mix match candy, things of that nature, where it's 2 for $1, or buy two, get one free, etc., etc. Within mass updates, if you want to filter off anything that's not your categories, all those filters are going to live here. So as you can see, I can filter off just about any attribute we have on the item. So we can filter off department, department group, vendor, vendor part. So to filter off a department, for instance, I would choose department as my filter type, and then choose the department. To filter off a tag, same kind of thing, I can choose tags. And then from here, instead of being a single tag, you can actually filter off multiple tags simultaneously. So our next piece of price book is going to be discounts. So discounts allow you to create a special promotion, and the promotion is going to have a start and stop date. However, it can also have a more granular time period, which is great for like those happy hour promotions. You know, if you notice business on Tuesdays from afternoons are dead, you can say, hey, if you come in Tuesday afternoon, we're going to give you 50% off this category. To create a discount, you'd simply add new. And then from here, you're going to give it a name, a discount group or discount set, which are some of the more advanced features, and then a type. We do your traditional dollar off or percent off, but we're also going to do some more advanced ones like buy X, get Y free, X items for Y dollars, or buy X, get Y off. And as I mentioned, you have your start and your stop date, but also you can get more granular with the schedule. So like I said, on Tuesdays, if things are dead, you can say, hey, this discount is only good Tuesdays from 9 to 6. And then finally, you can get into the really advanced properties. A lot of Altria promotions and other manufacturer promotions are loyalty based. So you can define, yes, this discount does require a loyalty customer. And then within that, you can say, this is how many times it can fire per day. This is how many times it can fire per week. This is how many times it can fire overall. And it's going to limit that. You can also say this discount is only good this many times per transactions. So we have the ability to stack discounts on top of each other. And where we see that commonly used is cigars. So you can always have a discount running on buy 9 cigars, get the 10th free. However, if one of the cigar manufacturers comes to you and says, hey, we want to put my cigars on promo, you can say, okay, and then create that discount and say, hey, this discount is not stackable with my generic buy 9, get 1 free. So in that case, the higher priority one's going to win. And as you can see, you can set your priority here. So the manufacturer discount would override your buy 9, get 10 free for the same eligible items. However, if you want both discounts to fire at that point, you would just choose, yes, these discounts are stackable. Once the discount is defined, on the right side here, you can choose which locations get the discount. It could be all location, could be a group of locations. And then finally, you can choose which items get this. So you can add the items from here by choosing the type. Is it going to be a product, category, department, whatever. Once that's chosen, then you can drill in and actually choose the category, the item, the department, whatever. Or like we looked at earlier, you can assign items to this discount via mass updates. When you're assigning items to discount, you have to give the item a value. Where that comes into play is you may have a discount that you want to fire once a certain threshold is met. When setting up a discount, you define the value that you want the discount to fire at. This is known as a trigger quantity. So when adding items to the discount, you would then give each item a value. By default, the item value is 1. However, you can make some items worth more than others. For instance, if you're setting up a discount that says, hey, whenever they buy 10, it triggers, you can say some items are worth 1 point, other items that maybe cost more are worth 5 points. Therefore, I can buy 2 of these items and the discount fires, or I can buy 10 of these other items. Now we're going to look at buy downs. So our buy downs is a type of a discount. However, a buy down is going to be reimbursable by the manufacturer. So these are pretty unique and they're pretty straightforward to set up. So to set them up, you would simply give it a name, a start date, a stop date, and then a dollar value. So there are other attributes such as, what you want to say on the receipt, what you want your accounting export codes to be. However, the only required fields are going to be name, value, start date, stop date. Once the discount's set up, you're going to add items to the discount. So from here, I would choose the type of item, category, product, department, etc. And then choose the actual categories. So while buy downs and discounts are similar, the biggest difference in a buy down and discount is a buy down is reimbursable by the manufacturer. So what that means is you are going to get repaid for every buy down you give the consumer. Therefore, we want to reduce not only your retail price, but also your cost. So on all of our reports, we are going to show you buy downs and then the margin after your buy down. So today we're going to look at our inventory module. So inventory is a life cycle that starts with reorder, and it's reorder, receiving, physical counts, and transfers and adjustments. So let's take a look at orders. In our world, we have two ways you can order. You can either create a straight up order, or you can use what we call a working order. What a working order is allows you to create the order at corporate, send the order down to the store for review. The store's going to mark it up, give you insight into things that you can't know, and then pass it back up to you for final review before it's sent out to a manufacturer. So that's important to us because we want the store's input, because they may have a customer saying, hey, I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to buy heavy. Or you may have a user who maybe smokes a particular brand of cigarette that's no longer coming to your store. So they give us valuable insight that the sales data can't give us. However, if we leave it up to the stores, they're notorious for ordering very heavy. So they're going to keep the shelves stocked over full, the back room stocked over full, and those are dollars you could be using for other things. So like I said, while their input is valuable, we ultimately want control. So that's where the working orders was derived from. So to create an order, I would simply add the order. The first thing I'm going to do is choose which location this order is for, then which vendor this order is for, and then choose the order method. So in our world, there's a myriad of order methods, and I treat order methods like reports. There's not one size fits all for all chains. Some of the most popular ones are going to be replenishment or days of inventory. However, what works for your stores may not work for my stores and vice versa. So let's look at a few of my favorite ones. So the replenishment is just that, reorder what I sold. So I'm going to define the number of weeks, say, okay, look back at the past 6 weeks, and basically order everything I sold over that past 6 weeks. So replenishment is great for new items, items that don't have an established sales history, or items that you don't sell a ton of. So think about your slow moving items like those cigars sitting in your humidor that are very seasonal, or the candy by the register that may not turn over but every quarter. So replenishment is great for those items. However, my favorite is going to be days of inventory. This is for items that have a very established sales history, items that are very consistently sold. So if we look at days of inventory, we have a few more options with it. So what days of inventory does is we similarly look back at a sales history period. So in our case, we'll use 6 weeks. So we're telling the system, look back over 6 weeks, and this is how many days I want to keep. So for stores that get an order once a week, we recommend usually 10 days. That gives you a little bit of a buffer. So using this example, it's going to say, okay, over the past 6 weeks, you sold 3 items per day. You want 10 days worth. You're going to need 30 of these widgets. However, you already have 5 on hand, so it's going to order you 25. So that's the logic behind days of inventory. So basically all you're doing with our order methods is just defining the algorithm that works best for your stores. So we recently introduced a hybrid ordering. So it's going to take the logic from days of inventory and the logic from replenishment and put them together. So what we found is some of our customers were struggling with how to order new items because the days of inventory, they didn't have enough sales history to trigger it. So they were having to create a replenishment order and a days of inventory order. So we just combined them into one. So the difference here is you define new item days. So you can say, hey, if this item has been in my inventory less than 30 days, consider it a new item and replenish it. If it's been in my inventory longer than 30 days, use the days of inventory logic. So it's wonderful for those orders. Regardless of the order method, you're going to end up with a generated order that looks like this. So as you can see here, we have a wealth of information at our fingertips. We're going to see the item, what the algorithm suggested we order, how many we have on hand, what our past 10 weeks of sales history were, how many days left, what our best week ever was. And if you'll notice, these numbers look kind of weird. It's 1/3, 1/0. What that represents is parent/child. Now we're going to roll them up. That doesn't necessarily mean in the case of cigars, you sold 12 boxes and 3 singles. That just means you sold the equivalent of those. They could all have been in singles for all we know. But at the end of the day, this was our past 10 weeks of sales history. So week 1 is going to be last week. week 2, 2 weeks ago, etc., etc. So before, our users were having to run an inventory evaluation report, a sales report, combine those together and try to look at them. So we threw them all on this one screen for you. So as you can see under days left, we're primarily green, and there's a few reds sprinkled in there. Reds are going to be where you had less than a week left. So this is a great tool. As we mentioned earlier, we have the ability to create a working order where we get the store's input. So as you can see, this order was a working order, and we had the suggested quantity, then we had what the store wanted, and then what we actually ended up ordering. So while this flow is happening, each column is enabled based on where it's at in the process. So at the very beginning, the suggested column is enabled. When the store receives it, the store quantity is enabled, and then finally when we get it back, the actual is enabled, and we're able to highlight differences. So we don't have to go through the entire order to see what the store changed. We can only look at what the store changed, which is great. So once the order has been finalized and we're ready to send it over, at that point we can simply convert it to an order. And then depending on your vendor, you can send it electronically, you can print it and fax it, you can export it and email it, all that kind of wonderful stuff. The next stop in our inventory lifecycle is going to be receiving. So receiving is where product is physically brought into your store and applied to inventory. So receiving can be done 3 ways. You can manually receive, you can receive via EDI, or you can receive via the handheld. So we're going to take a look at manually receiving. So manual receiving is commonly done for your DSD vendors, your direct store delivery vendors. This would be like your bread guy, your milk guy, the guy bringing soda in for these small volume invoices. Large volume invoices, we definitely recommend using the handheld or electronic invoicing. So to manually create one, I would create the invoice, choose my location, vendor, enter an invoice number, and then any notes about this. Also note that I can choose to receive from a PO. So if you've used the order, you can then say, hey, this order's come in. I want to convert it to an invoice. So you can choose, yes, this came from a PO, choose that PO, and it's going to preload all those items. So once that's entered, as you can see, I'm taken to a detail screen. From here, I would simply add each item that's on this invoice, and I can enter either the UPC number, the vendor part number, or I can search for the item by description. So if we search for an item, we can choose it here. And then I would enter in the cost and quantity that I received. I'd repeat that for every item on the invoice. Once I've finalized this, I could choose apply, and at that point my inventory is adjusted. So as I mentioned, this is probably the least efficient way to receive. We also have the ability to electronically accept over 40 different EDI formats. So if you're dealing with a larger wholesaler, probably they're going to be able to electronically send it to you. We can also use our handheld unit to scan in the invoice. Now we're going to look at inventory counts. So inventory counts are where you actually count what you have in the store. So in our world, we have 2 different types of counts. We have spot checks, we have cycle counts. So while they're very similar, the unique difference is a spot check is meant to be done on a small set of items. And when you scan the item, say that there's 3, hit apply, it immediately applies the inventory. While cycle counts is more of your traditional count. You'll still use the handheld, you'll still use the definition, but it requires user intervention at the end where you'll go in, review the worksheet before it's finally applied to inventory. Both of these work off an inventory definition. And what a definition is just you're telling the system what you're going to count. I'm a big fan of breaking inventory counts into very granular counts. So if you're going to count the full store, let's break it into 4 or 5 2-hour chunks rather than counting for 8 to 10 hours continually. It's just something mental about that. If I'm counting all day, by the time I get done counting, I really don't care what the inventory is like. I'm just want to get out of that store. However, if I break it into these small manageable chunks, it's almost mental break. So every 2 hours, I'm switching from counting cigarettes. Now I'm counting cigars. Now I'm counting pipes. Now I'm counting beverages. So it's just a logical way of counting. So to create a definition, I would give it a name and then choose my category. So the most common definitions are going to be simple like that. They're going to be filter based. However, we also have what we call dynamic definitions. And as you can see, some of these are going to be negative products. Hey, everything that's a negative item. Also, items from a negative transaction. All items from a negative transaction. What those are is if there was any receipt that had a cancel, a void, a return on it, it's going to be flagged to be counted. If the item itself was canceled or voided, it's going to be counted. Inactive items. If I have any items that's flagged as inactive, but the store still has inventory on them, show me those to count. So these are more dynamic filters rather than just count this department, count this category, count this tag. So once your definition is created, using our handheld, you would go in, start the count, scan the items, enter your quantities, and continue. Once the count is complete, it's going to show up here for our review on the back office side. And we can take a look at one of these counts. So as you can see, I see all the data about the count. I'm going to see, hey, was it scanned? How many you counted in the back room? How many you counted on the floor? What the total count was? Adjustments. So right here, I have one item that's red. So we could take a look at this item. So in this case, I counted 5. However, the system expected me to have 6. So as you can see, my variance is -1. Rather than having to drill down to find that, I can filter off it here, say, hey, only show me products with a variance. And that's going to show me just that item. One problem we found users have is they may scan the same item multiple times. And while on the handheld it asks them if they want to append or replace the count, we've often found that this is a source of some of our inventory variances. So what we've done is we've added a filter to show us any items scanned multiple times. So with that filter enabled, it's going to show us any of those items, and we can click on the item, and then it's going to show us the scan order and each time it was scanned, who scanned it, why they scanned it, etc., etc. Another thing we have is the ability to look at the analysis from right here. So as you can see with this count, we have one product with a variance for $11.54. We can drill into the item analysis for that and go back in and view, hey, did we forget to do an invoice? Was this item counted last time? If so, was there a variance last time? What's the sales history look at? So without having to open up reports, go to inventory reports, invoice reports, sales reports, we can just pop into the screen, look at all that data from here. If we're happy with the count, once everything's done, we can choose to apply it, and at that point our inventory gets updated. So the next part of our inventory lifecycle is going to be transfers and adjustments. So adjustments are pretty straightforward. It is where you want to manually adjust out inventory at a store. So to adjust an item, you simply create it, choose the items in the adjustment type. Transfers are a little more complex. So in our world, transfers can be initiated at either corporate, the from store, or the to store. As you can see here, you can see where the transfer is at. Here, both the from and the to store have applied it. Here, the from store has applied it, but the to store hasn't yet applied it. So to create a transfer, I would simply add the transfer, choose the from store, the to store, and then the items that belong to that transfer. And then looking at the details of a transfer, as you can see all the steps, who applied it, when they applied it, and then what items are being applied. So with our suggested transfers, we've taken the process of evaluating inventory and sales, sitting at a table together, determining what's not selling at this store, where it is selling, into an automated process. So what we can do is we can choose a store to analyze, a date range, and a minimum sales threshold. So what that means is looking at this store, saying, hey, any product in my filter that hasn't sold at least 10 in this past month, make it eligible to be transferred. So it's going to analyze all that data, and with this results, what we're going to do is be able to see which store needs those items. So as you can see, the quantity on hand and sales are available right here. So when looking at this, these 117 items haven't sold enough of threshold during the time period, so they should be eligible to be transferred out, and these other stores are highlighted based on their need. So if we're satisfied with these, we can choose create transfers, and at that point it's going to start the transfer life cycle, send notifications to the store, hey, prep these items to be transferred out. So our reports are broken into various modules based on the report type. So we're going to look at a few of them today. So under sales reports, looking at a department sales report. So here I can choose a filter if I wanted a single department, multiple departments, a list of categories, etc., etc. I can filter on those. A start date, a stop date, and a list of stores. The report's going to show me the retail and the adjusted retail, that is retail less discounts. It's going to show me my cost and then my adjusted cost, that would be cost less discounts, and then the margin based on those adjusted values. And if you'll notice on a lot of our reports, we have a hyperlink, and this allows me to drill down. So for instance, here it's telling me I sold 13 items in Department 18. I can drill down and see how I got to that 13. Another one of my favorite reports is what we call the negative cashier report. What this report shows me is anything done at the register that I consider a negative action, such as a cancel, a void, a no sell. So from here, I can choose a store or a date range. And then once I've chosen those, I can generate this report. It's going to show me all the negative transactions this cashier did during this date range. So as you can see, this cashier had a total of 9 negative transactions. It's going to show me the details of each of those. And then one great feature we can see is the receipt that happened right before and the receipt that happened right after by clicking show pre and post receipts. Another report I really like is hourly sales. What this is going to do is going to show me hours per day, how many we're selling, how many customers we have. This helps determine, hey, do I need to open earlier, close later, add more staff? And it's all shown visually with a chart as well as the underlying data behind it. Finally, we'll look at the inventory evaluation report. This report's going to show you the value of your inventory as it sits right now. However, we also have the ability to run this report off snapshot data. So what we do is every day we take a snapshot of what the inventory quantity is and the cost and the price, allowing you to historically go back and report on what your inventory valuation was. So this finally allows you to celebrate New Year's without having to worry about running your inventory reports. So if you'll notice, all of our reports pull in a similar fashion. All of them can be scheduled and all of them can be favorited. So what that means is when I schedule a report, I can choose when to send it, who to send it to, and how to send it. Reports are available to be sent in PDF, CSV, and Excel formats and can be sent as a message using our internal messaging or via email. To favorite a report, it's going to allow me to say, this is my favorite. I enjoy these filters. It's set up the exact way I like it, and it's going to show up underneath the favorite reports module. So that way when you come in the office, you don't have to go in every time, choose the report, choose the filters, choose your settings. It's going to be there waiting for you. Our full-featured loyalty module allows you to create campaigns. Within those campaigns, you can set things like when the campaign starts, when it stops. You can even get granular and say this campaign is only available from Tuesday nights from 6 to 9. This allows you to really attract people during those low moving times. We also have a multiplier for non-cash versus cash. So what you can do is reward customers for using cash over credit cards and avoid those credit card fees. For more information about the loyalty and to see all the features, visit us online. Now we're going to review our handheld module. Our handheld is Android based and it runs on most any Android device. We're big fans of the Unitech with their integrated scanner. It performs much better than the Imager. Once you're logged into the handheld, you're going to see your home screen. So the home screens are going to have the applications that you have access to based on your permission set. So as you can see here, we have the various modules such as time clock, price book, receiving, etc., etc. Let's take a look at cycle counts. So within cycle counts, it's going to show me a list of open cycle counts. These would be cycle counts that have not yet been reconciled. So I'm allowed to resume one of those, or I can begin a new count. So to begin a new count, I simply choose new count and then choose the definition I want to use. So once in the count, at this point I would scan the items, and based on my permission, I may or may not see how many I have on hand currently. I would then enter how many I'm physically counting and press OK. Once all the counting is complete, at that point I can reconcile the count and the inventory will be applied. On the handheld, to receive an invoice, I would use the receiving module. Once open, I see any open invoices. These would be invoices I've started but not yet completed. I can choose one of those to resume or start a new invoice. Once in the invoice details, I would simply scan the item I want to receive. The system is going to prompt me for the quantity and optionally the cost. and I would choose OK. Once all items are on the invoice, you can save and apply the invoice. On the handheld, to perform a spot check, I would choose the spot check module. From within that module, it's going to show me a list of open spot checks. So I can choose one of those to resume, or I can start a new spot check. If I choose to start a new spot check, it's going to ask me which definition to use, and then I can continue. Once in the spot check, I would simply scan the items I wish to check. And it's going to prompt me for the quantity. Once the quantity is entered, simply press OK and then apply the spot check. To verify an invoice on the handheld, I can choose Receiving Verify. From this module, it's going to show me a list of open invoices. I can choose one of those to resume, or I can create a new one. Once in the module, I would scan each item that's on the invoice and enter the quantity I received. Once all items have been entered, I can save the verification. So now we're going to take a look at our point of sale application. So the point of sale application runs locally at the store and relies on its own database. So if your internet goes out and you're offline, everything runs smoothly. So the first screen is the login screen. So from here you can log in using the keypad, fingerprint, or scan card. So to log in using the keypad, I would enter my user ID and password. Once logged in, I'm taken to the cashier home screen. Here we have three modules: the time clock, to-do lists, and messages. The time clock allows you to clock in, out, as well as view your current schedule. The to-do list shows a mixture of to-dos such as mop, sweep, as well as system to-dos like print these labels, perform this spot check, or cycle count. The messages is our intercompany email replacement. It allows you to send messages to corporate or a specific employee at corporate. To create a message, I would just simply choose Create, and then from there enter a subject and message just like I would with the email, and then choose is it going to a single person or all of corporate. The heart of the point of sale is the register application. To open the register, I choose Open POS, and then from here I'm taken to the main register. So the main register is comprised of panels and buttons. You can have an unlimited amount of panels and 66 buttons within each panel, giving you unlimited customization. So all the buttons are permission-based, meaning that if you don't want the cashier to access that function, they simply can't see it. The majority of items you sell in your store are going to scan. So to begin a sale, I simply scan the item. At this point, any activity such as age verification is going to pop up for the cashier to perform. If there's none, the item is added to the sale, like this item. To sell multiple quantities of the item, I would enter in the quantity I want to sell and then scan the item. At this point on the top left, we have a running total showing the item count as well as the current balance due. If this is all the customers purchasing, you can go to the subtotal panel. At this point, enter method of payment. To split payments, you would just enter in the first payments. For instance, if the customer owes us $24 and they want to give us $10 in cash and put the rest on a credit card, we would enter the cash first. We can use the quick cash keys on the left or enter the value they want to give us and then press cash. In this case, after paying the $10, they still have a balance of $14.21. Now we choose the secondary payment method. We'll choose $14.21, check. At this point, the sale is over and the drawer will open, and if any change due is required, it'll be shown. To sell an item that doesn't scan, you have several options. A cashier can look up the item using the Find Item button. From here, I can search by things like description, UPC, vendor part, etc. It's going to return a list of items matching that search result. From here, I can choose one or several items to sell. When I sell an item that requires age verification, the system is going to prompt me with three options. I can tell the system that the customer is old enough by touching Visually Verified. I can manually enter in the customer's birth date using the date time picker, or I can scan the customer's license. Scanning license is usually the preferred method, as not only does it keep the cashier safe, it also allows you to earn AVT points and rewards from your Altria program. It's going to do two things. It's going to verify the age if you're scanning an age-sensitive item, as well as look the customer up in our loyalty program. So let's take a look at that. So here I'm scanning the age-sensitive item. It's prompting me to do something. If I scan the customer's license, it's going to verify it for age as well as look them up for loyalty. So in this case, I'm already a member of the loyalty program, so it's going to add me to the cell, as you can see by the indication on the left side. If I was not a member of loyalty, it would verify my age, but then prompt the cashier, hey, do you want to add this customer to loyalty? At that point, it's a great opportunity to sell the customer on your loyalty program. From here, you can continue with the sale as normal. And if the customer's earned any loyalty rewards, they'll show up on the receipt. To manually look up a customer for loyalty, I could choose the customer icon. At this point, it's going to prompt me for the phone number. You could also push the phone number prompt down to the credit card terminal for the customer to enter it themselves. If you want to do a more advanced lookup and you have the permission to, you can choose the search tab. From here, you can look them up by first name, last name, license number. Also, based on your permissions, if a customer's been manually looked up, you can restrict redemptions from happening. This allows you to make sure that the customer is actually in the store whenever a redemption happens and a cashier is just not going rogue and borrowing their points. To add a customer, you would simply choose the customer icon and new. From there, you can scan the customer's license and it's going to pre-fill out some pertinent information such as first name, last name, address, city, state, zip. Therefore, at that point, all you're asking the customer is for their phone number and email address and if they want to participate in marketing. Other functions such as void, no sale, and cancel sale are permission-based. However, we log that activity and it's available in the negative cashier report. Another alternative to looking up the item if the item doesn't scan is to put buttons on the screen for the items. You can have a complete panel of buttons as displayed here, which when I press newspapers, it takes me to the new panel showing all my newspapers. Or you can add multiple items to one button as displayed here under lighters. When I touch lighters, it asks me which one to sell. Choose the item, that lighter's added to the cell. The same quantity keys apply to those. So if a customer wanted to buy 10 lighters, I would simply choose the quantity before I bring up the lighters. So to cancel a sale, I simply touch cancel, and based on your settings, it's going to prompt for a reason. I can enter my reason and touch OK. At that point, that sale is over. To void an item that's already on the sale, I would choose the void sale, choose the item I want to void, and then void it off. Void last item is just going to void the very last item that was added to the sale. To sell lottery tickets, generally customers are going to put those on their own panel or assign them to a specific department. In our case, we have a lottery panel. Within that lottery panel, I have the quick picks. So here I can choose the $1 or 50-cent quick pick. If the customer wants multiple ones, I can use the same multiplier keys. So if they want to buy 10, I can choose the 10. On the payout side, very similar. I would enter in the amount they won and then allow them to get paid for that. And I can enter in a description, or you can hard code in descriptions such as lotto or scratch. On returning items, there are several options. You can return from a receipt or you can manually return. To return from a receipt, I simply choose return from receipt and scan the receipt. It's going to show all the items that are on the sale. I choose which the customer will return. To manually return, I would choose the manual return option, and the items then could be scanned or added to the sale just like normal. To check the price of an item, I would choose price check and then either scan or manually look up the item. So from here, it's going to show me all the information about the item, how many's on hand, the cost, the price with tax, if the item's on any buy downs or discounts. If the customer decides to proceed with the purchase, I can just simply touch add to sale. That item's added to the sale. We also have a closed loop gift card module. What we mean by closed loop is that there's no third party. You control the entire environment, which means you don't pay any third party processing fees every time a gift card is sold or redeemed. You can either use a license, Roll and Save app, or buy third party gift cards which have a QR code or barcode on the back. As long as it's a unique identifier, we can handle it. After a shift, a cashier is going to perform a register Z. Based on settings and permissions, either a single chit's going to print out with no information or an entire receipt showing all the sales data. From there, they're going to do a shift reconciliation. That reconciliation is going to compare what they say they have versus what the system expected them to have, and then optionally show the variance. A shift reconciliation is then combined later with a daily reconciliation, giving you an overall view of how the day ended up. To perform a payout or pay-in, you would simply choose which one you want to perform, enter in the amount, and then optionally a description. At that point, the drawer will open and the pay in or pay out's complete. To perform a safe drop, touch the safe drop button, enter the safe drop amount, and then optionally a description, and then the safe drop's complete. One of our marketing modules is called Uplifts, and Uplifts is a way to gamify discounts, promotions to make them more fun. So when an item is on an uplift and it's sold, it's going to pop up a script to the cashier as well as push a display to the customer, informing them of the promotion. So let's look at it in action. So if we look at this uplift, all these items here will trigger it. And what we're trying to get the customer to do is to know that there's a sale on similar items. So we are going to sell one of these items. As you can see, when the item's sold, the cashier is presented a script. We've also gamified it by making the button say win and lose instead of OK and cancel. The marketing team has also prepared special promotional images which are pushed out to the customer. In this case, I, as a cashier, am going to earn 50 cents if I can get this customer to try Cuban rounds today. Thanks for your interest in our point of sale. We just touched the tip of the iceberg here. To find out more about this module and all our other great modules, find us online. Thanks again for watching.